There are celebrations in Yemen as President Ali Abdullah Saleh goes to Saudi Arabia for medical treatment. But has he left for good? Is this really a turning point for the troubled country? And who will now assume power? This is Inside Story. Hello there and welcome to the programme. I'm Felicity Barr. Yemen's President Ali Abdullah Saleh is in Saudi Arabia receiving medical treatment. He flew there on Saturday night following an attack on his presidential palace that also injured other senior members of his government. Saleh's departure has opened up an opportunity to resolve Yemen's ongoing political crisis. But who will fill the political vacuum should Saleh not return? Hazem Sika reports.
Celebrations ring out in Yemen's capital, Sana'a. They're cheering the news that President Ali Abdullah Saleh has left the country for Saudi Arabia to get medical treatment. He was accompanied by key members of his family and some of his closest officials. It's not clear yet if this marks the end of Saleh. Amid the victory signs, "Who's next?" reads the placard this man holds up.
How can I describe this? We are happy, very happy. That's it. We have pulled down the regime by our peaceful revolution. Thank God.
Today we celebrate achieving the first phase of our revolution. This is not the end of the revolution. We will continue rallying and camp out until we are sure that we have started building our new Yemen.
Saleh was transferred to a medical facility in Riyadh after this attack on his presidential palace on Friday. The vice president has now officially taken over. But with foreign journalists banned from reporting inside Yemen, several issues remain unclear. The extent of Saleh's injuries from the attack, whether he left any relatives to keep his grip on power, and who's really in charge.
Some are very cautious and worried, not knowing what will happen while the youth protesters throughout the country are celebrating because the demand that they had, that Saleh leaves the country, has been met. The youth revolution are celebrating what they call as a victory, though there are no guarantees that Saleh has left Yemen politically.
All eyes are now on the Saudis, Yemen's biggest bankroller and the regional power broker. A foreign ministry spokesman told Al Jazeera this is not a political situation, it's a humanitarian issue. In terms of the political situation in Yemen, it's up to all Yemeni factions to decide on their political future, and it's also up to the political efforts of the GCC. But every hour that passes with Saleh out of the country brings Yemen closer to the end of his 33-year rule. Hazem Sika, Al Jazeera.
Well then, for more on all of that, I'm joined by our three guests. From here in Doha, Abdullah Saleh, head of the joint coalition of opposition parties in the parliament. From Jeddah, Hussein Shabokshi, columnist for Ashaq Al-Wasat newspaper. And joining us on the phone line from the Yemeni capital of Sana'a, Hassan Al-Hayfi, a political commentator and columnist. Gentlemen, welcome to all of you. Thanks for joining us on Inside Story. If I can first of all get your initial thoughts on President Saleh. Hussein Shabokshi, do you think his reign as president is now over?
Well, yes, I believe so, that we are now witnessing a new transitional phase. It's the post-Saleh era. Clearly, I think the Yemenis have accepted that. I think also the players in the region do see that. And to a very funny degree, but realistic one as well, I think Ali Abdullah Saleh and his clan have accepted that somehow. Maybe they have not announced it yet, but it's a stark reality that they have to deal with.
All right, Hussein Al-Hayfi, do you think this was basically an exit strategy that was organised for Saleh?
It's not so much an exit strategy. I think they wanted him killed, but he's lucky. When we say exit, it means he's going to be exiled. But I think that the intention was to really kill him. I think, luckily for him and perhaps his family, he's still alive, and maybe his supporters. But for Yemen, it is an exit, hopefully, and an exit that will not have a U-turn.
Abdurrahman Bafadel, do you think there is any chance that President Saleh could return to Yemen? His supporters and members of his government say he will be back here within days.
I think that whether he comes or he stays there, it will not be, it will be the same, because the problem is that delivery of power has already started with his vice president. So we have to proceed for peaceful delivery of power, as GCCC proposed before. And I advise the Americans to support the millions protesting in the streets for civil regime, for parliamentary system, for decentralization of governance and judicial power independent. We want to live like others, true democracy instead of individual rule of Ali Saleh. I don't know why the Americans are hesitating. They are putting the people in one hand and Ali Saleh in other hand. They try to compare the two. Ali Saleh is a human being. One day he will die. Now he is paralyzed. He cannot rule the country. When even he comes, he's still sick. We think it is time now for delivery of power, and we should proceed after 60 days for new presidency elections, so that we make a modern country with separate institutions, judicial power, legislative power, and executive power, independent of each other. We want decentralization in governance. We have too many problems of poverty, of joblessness, and of infrastructure, lack of everything. So we cannot continue with one man ruling the country with all powers in his hand. I want the Americans to understand this. They never understand this point. They always say Saleh or the people, Saleh or the people, and I can't understand their argument.
We're certainly going to go into that in a bit more detail later in the programme. But first of all, with Saleh out of the country, Vice President Rabu Mansour Hadi has taken over as acting president and supreme commander of the armed forces. But as speculation mounts about whether or not Saleh will return to Yemen, let us now take a quick look at who could fill that potential power vacuum. Firstly, there is Brigadier General Ali Mohsen Al-Ahmar. The commanding officer of the northwest of the country, Al-Ahmar was a long-time supporter of Saleh, but he defected to the opposition in March. Then there is Hashid tribe leader Sadiq Al-Ahmar. Overtly opposed to Saleh's government, his supporters are suspected of being behind Friday night's attack on the presidential palace. That leads us to Saudi Arabia. If Saleh's departure was part of an exit strategy orchestrated by the Saudis, well, their role in Yemen's political future could be massive. Opposition groups like the Islah Party also hold massive sway and could play an integral role. And, of course, the pro-democracy movement has gained momentum since the protests began 3 months ago. Well, Hussein Shabokshi, do you believe that Saudi Arabia has, behind the scenes, brokered some sort of deal?
Let me just step a little bit back, because the situation in Yemen at the moment is not as rosy as a lot of the people on the street realize it is. Yes, they have gotten rid of Ali Abdullah Saleh, or so it seems, but they have replaced that with a tribal system that is part of the old regime. It is not a revolution. It is a coup d'etat within the ruling party, because the Sadiq Al-Ahmar and the Mohsen Al-Ahmar have all been clearly a very important and integral part of the regime. So the revolutionaries on the street cannot celebrate yet, unfortunately. It is not an Arab Spring episode. It is merely a coup d'etat within the party. As far as the Saudis, to answer your questions, are concerned, they are trying to orchestrate a very important, although short-term, cease of fire between the fighting parties. Unfortunately, that has not been successful as of yet, because even though with the departure of Ali Abdullah Saleh and the jubilation in the streets of Sana'a and Ta'az and other cities in Yemen, bloodshed is still taking place. So the factioning, the warring parties have not all been pleased with the departure, and do not all read that it is a final episode yet. And that is very alarming for many parties.
Hassan Al-Haifi in Sana'a itself, is it possible that Vice President Hadi could form some sort of unity government? Will he have enough backing to be able to do that, do you think?
I think the Vice President is now just, actually, this came to him. It's not that he was a person vying for power or anything. But I think because of, everyone knows that this man does not want the position. Everyone knows he's not vying for it. Everyone has a sense of agreement on his, at least, ability to be, not impartial to all the involved parties. I think it was a wise choice, to make him, and I think it fits well with the Constitution as well. I mean, he is the vice president. Okay, the president is gone. He takes over. This is smooth. I don't think there should be as much worry as my friend Hussein really is trying to project. The Yemeni people, you think, are quite civilized. You know, when the Egyptian, when the revolution took over in 1962, we had a civil war for many, many years. And, you know, once the external powers got out of the game, the Yemenis got along very well, and there was a reconciliation period. And the republic survived rather peacefully. But I don't think the Yemenis are as, violent, prone as people tend to like to project them to be. I think we will have a very smooth transition. I think the Yemenis can get together. I think all the people realize that it is time for Yemen. You know, Yemen is fairly far behind most of the countries in the region in development. As my good friend Abdurrahman Basel also said, we have a lot of work to do. So we don't have time for political, fighting, etc. We have to move. The country has to move strides forward.
Okay.
So we cannot just sit down and decide, how the political game is to be played. Mr. Basel came out with a very good idea. We want a civilized, democratic government with a balance of power for all divisions and a straightforward division of power among the three branches. And this is good. And the fact that Mr. Basel, who is one of the members of the Islah Party, has said that, I think is a great award for this revolution itself.
OK, well, Hassan, you're presenting quite an optimistic view of Yemen's future. Let's indeed speak to Abdulrahman Bafadel. Would you be willing to work with Vice President Hadi at the moment for some peaceful transition of power, some unity government, some government that has a broad spectrum of people on it? Would you be happy to do that, to work under him?
Of course, he has the powers delivered to him to proceed on, as the Constitution said, after 60 days to carry presidential elections, and the new president will start parliamentary elections, and from the parliament a new government will be established. So all people of Yemen with all panorama will accept the ballot boxes. All are civilized. Even tribes left their arms and came for more than 3 months protesting with millions, demanding civil regime. So the ballot boxes will be the judge for all parties. All will accept from east to west. Nobody will disagree with the democracy, with the unity. The problem is that we have to proceed on. Now, the vice president must restructure the military, the army and the security. This is the first thing he should do. He should nominate a prime minister to form a government and proceed to prepare for the elections after 60 days. The president is not a problem. Whether he is there or he is here changes nothing in this argument, because we are sure that he is not able, and his term is ended already, and we are fed up of military regime and individual rule. So please don't repeat this disc that the president will come or will not come. It doesn't change anything in our history and in our affair of peaceful revolution of millions in the streets who ask civil regime, democracy and ballot boxes to govern all panorama of Yemen without any problem.
All right, well, Hussein Shabokshi, let's talk to you a little bit about the role of the military in Yemen. What part do you think they are going to now play? Because the military itself has been quite divided, hasn't it?
And it will get more divided, because there are people who feel strongly that they should be rewarded within the new governing system of Yemen. Particularly a gentleman like Ali Al-Ahmar, who believes that he made the biggest crack in the Ali Abdullah Saleh regime by defecting and joining the rebels. He wants his payback, and he believes that he contributed greatly to the fall of the system that was the pride and joy of Ali Abdullah Saleh. You have, on the other hand, and I have been informed today that the son of Ali Abdullah Saleh, the head of the Presidential Guard, is still giving orders, and I use the word giving orders here with a lot of qualification. He is still running the show behind the curtains, even though there is a vice president in charge. So that is also part of the military arrangement in Yemen that has to be taken into consideration. The military situation is a very murky one, and it has to be considered within the current power vacuum, as well as the tribal sheikhs that also are vying to become major players in the new landscape.
Well, that is another problem, isn't it, Hassan al-Haifi? The fact that the president's sons and nephews, many of them are still in the country and they still hold positions of power. They're not going to want to relinquish those positions, are they?
Well, let me just make a little bit of correction to Mr. Shabukshi's analysis. Mr. Ali Mohsen al-Ahmar came into this revolt explicitly saying he does not want any ambition. First of all, it is, we have what we call the survival. There was, of course, an antagonism between the two as of late. And it was either this Ali or that Ali. I mean, it came to that point. So for Ali Mohsen, it was really a matter of survival, to join the revolt or not to join. You see, if he had not joined, he would have been, taken care of in the Saleh style of, taking care of his opponent. So it is not just that Ali Mohsen is going to ask for anything in return. He couldn't ask for, he has everything already. He doesn't need money. He doesn't need, he has enjoyed, he will still, I think, have a lot of prestige. But I don't think he's not the type that, he enjoys a lot of latitude. He has a lot of respect among the traditional cadres of society of Yemen. So he doesn't need to seek power. He can enjoy power just staying in as he did even when Ali Abdullah Saleh was in power. He enjoyed a lot of power. He doesn't need to go after it and grab it. As for his sons and nephews, I think without Ali Abdullah Saleh, they would be, they would soon be, let's say, dissolved. Like you dissolve the pills in, like an effervescent tablet. I think they will just dissolve.
Well, let's ask Abdurrahman Bafadel that same question. What do you think about the president's sons and nephews left behind in Yemen? Are they going to try to cling to power? Is there any way that you would be willing to work with them?
I think the role of military must be redefined. Military have nothing to do with politics. They have nothing to do with civil life. They should go and make their job as military to defend the country, sovereignty of the country, unity of the country, democracy of the country. They have nothing to do with politics. The new reforms will mention this. No military is allowed, even the son of the president, to interfere into politics. The problem of the Arab world is that military people jumped into politics and took the seats for half century, 40 years, 30 years. They destroyed the countries, they destroyed civil life, and they put all powers in their hand, and they went to do with individual rule. I think neither Ahmed nor any other military nor Ali Mohsen should interfere into politics and civil life. This is the new system we want to do like the West. In the West, you find no military in politics, no military in civil life. Why should we Arabs suffer from military in power? That's very wrong. I advise the Americans to rectify their policy in our world. They should support democracy. They should support civil rule. They should get military out of politics. That's what I hope from our friends in America. Otherwise, Arab world will have more problems, more wars, more instability, which they don't like.
All right, Hussein Shabakshi, we've talked a lot about the people who might come to power if Saleh does not return to Yemen. But what about the ordinary Yemeni people, those young people who went out on the streets of Yemen to protest and to ask for more democracy in their country? They presumably are happy that Saleh has left the country, but are they going to be willing to listen to what the tribal leaders have to say, to what the military has to say? Are they going to be happy with the situation as it is at the moment?
There was a moment that lasted for a few months in Yemen that all the Yemenis, most of them anyway, the majority, were unified on one goal alone, which is the removal of Ali Abdullah Saleh. Now that has taken place, I am very worried that each segment of that vast and diverse society will go back to its soft spot, i.e. tribal, sectorial, regional, or what have you, and they have their own agendas, because a united Yemen requires a new set of rules. It requires painful decisions, it requires ruling by equality, which has not taken place for the last 30-some years. There's got to be a lot of give and take, and I don't think the psyche is prepared now, because I think if you look at the people of the southern side of Yemen, there are divisions within the divisions. You talk to the people from Aden, they want to be separated from the people of the south, which want to be separated from the Yemen unity itself. It is a very complicated situation, and everybody is looking now at Saada as an example for self-rule, which should be applied to many other regions in the country. These are the challenges that face Yemen and Yemen's youth today, and if they are not addressed properly, strongly, immediately, it could be very chaotic.
Hassan Al-Hayfi, is that not true? The fact that the youthful protesters who went out on the streets demanding democracy, they're going to want a part of the new Yemen, aren't they? And in many senses, they're not actually allied to any political parties or indeed tribal parties. They just want the democracy and the right to speak out, don't they?
You are absolutely correct. And, you know, when you look at the pictures of those protests and the millions that were really scattered, you will see in those millions, you will not see the picture of Ali Mustin portrayed or Hamid Al-Ahmar portrayed. You know, Ali Abdullah, these are millions of common people from Yemen who are saying, no, we want a change. We want a democratic government. We don't want tribalism. Even the tribal chief, you know, bear in mind that Yemeni tribal chiefs have never ruled Yemen. It's not an accepted rule that any tribal chief should ever become a ruler of Yemen. You will look at Yemen's history, you will not find any, because that will really create a rift in the whole tribal society. Our tribal society is quite rigid and well structured, and everyone knows where his place is. To go to the top is very dangerous for any tribal chief. Even from his own tribe, you know, or even to have one tribe, as would happen now, because you had Ali Abdullah Saleh's tribe, you know, was prevalent above all tribes, and that caused a lot of problems. And I think most of the other Yemeni tribes recognize this, even the Al-Ahmars. They're saying we don't want any authority. Even the leading general, Hani Mustin, has said he doesn't want. So, and perhaps the Yemeni youth and the Yemeni revolters all are saying the military is going to be, you know, doing its rightful job from now on, as well as the tribal chiefs will now be responsible for making sure that their regions are, you know, stabilized and in order, as they have been doing. That's why you don't have Al-Qaeda found in all over Yemen, because most of the tribes do not allow Al-Qaeda to come into their land.
Well,
so I don't think that...
I'm sorry to interrupt because I know we're running out of time. You just mentioned Al-Qaeda there. I want to ask Abdurrahman Bafadel, is there not a danger that with this power vacuum and the chaos that does still exist in Yemen, despite Saleh's departure, is there not a real fear, as the West fears, that Al-Qaeda in the Arab Peninsula could actually take advantage of the situation?
We said we are ready to sign an agreement with Western allies, America and Europe, through UN, to fight together, hand in hand, Al-Qaeda in Yemen and other places around us. We can cooperate together. Nobody wants Qaeda. All of us against Qaeda. Millions in the streets protesting. This is against the style of Al-Qaeda. We have no arms. We face the government with our chests naked. So how can we be like Qaeda? We detest Al-Qaeda. We condemn Al-Qaeda. We are fighting Al-Qaeda. We call the Westerners to help us to go together to fight Al-Qaeda. This disc also must not be repeated to us. We are against them 200%. But the problem is, the question, Shubukshi said, if democracy comes, the country will be split. Dictatorship will keep unity? And I ask him now, does dictatorship will keep unity of Yemen? No. It will be the inverse. Civil wars will be everywhere. But when every government governs itself, to rule itself, to take charge of its budget, to take charge of the development program, to take charge of investors, of real estates, of branches, of ministries, of everything in their state, I think this will be better than central power, which is very corrupted, very bad, that caused all the problems.
Well, we are now out of time, so I must thank my guests, Abdurrahman Bafadel and Hussein Shubokshi, and also to Hassan Al-Hayfi, who joined us from Sana'a on the phone line. And thank you so much for joining us here on this edition of Inside Story. As ever, we welcome your comments and suggestions, so please email them to us at insidestory@aljazeera.net. But it's goodbye for now.